Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is going to be part 4 of the start of season updates, and it's basically, apart from the holy clay pots, all the pots I haven't done so far, which was basically those top 2 shelves. Now there could be an odd repeat in here and there could be some get missed out because I've moved things around. And so be it. You know, if I miss the odd one or double up on the odd one, it's no big deal. It's not the end of the world. I've had second thoughts on the posting the orchids off for those that are waiting. Although the weather's fine, I had a good chat with my postie this morning, and he said, and basically he had a parcel for me, so he knocked and that parcel arrived within 2 days of being dispatched. eBay purchase, not orchids. So I said, parcels seem to be going okay. He said, yeah, a few are, but he said really there's a lot of delays in here. We still got quite a few off, sort of self-isolating in case, you know, they've got the problems. So he said we've got quite a lot of sick, so we're understaffed at the moment. And he said at this current rate, the daily rate of parcels we're getting through the depot is more than we get at Christmas. And at Christmas we take on extra temporary staff to deal with it, and we haven't got those. We haven't even got our normal staff. So he said the delays are building up now, because each day we're getting more in than we can clear. The backlog's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he said at the moment there doesn't seem to be an end to it because so many people are just buying stuff online that then needs delivering. So I'm going to hold off on the orchids. I know it's a flipping nuisance, but some could say perhaps you should have got on with it earlier in the year. Well, to get back prior to the lockdown and everything, we didn't have the weather, you know, so you can't win. Right, so this one, I just want to say about a problem. I have a problem, and not quite sure where it is, but it's on a mount. It could be on more than one mount. And what it is that I go round watering my mounts, and obviously I put a bit more water in. You've seen me do my watering. I put some water in the bowl, or water and feed, whichever I'm doing, and I use it. And then I put some more in, and I use that. And I got to a point the other day where I took a break, and there were lots of specks in the water, and I mean specks, you know. And after I came back after the break, there was a cluster of the specks floating on the surface, and out of the corner of my eye I thought, they're moving. So I actually put my fingers underneath like that and lifted the cluster of specks out. What they are absolutely minute beetle-like creatures. So they're insects. They got 6 legs, not 8, and little antennae, and to all intents and purposes they look like absolutely minute beetles. I have not got a clue what they are. I can't imagine I could look them up, but they've come off one or more mounts. Now the only thing I can think to do to find out which ones they're on, I'm thinking of doing a bleach treatment, because I don't know what else to do, because I don't know what they are, so I don't necessarily know what's going to kill them or what's going to do them no harm at all. So I thought about dunking some mounts in the bleach treatment for the first time ever. I'm not happy about doing it, but at the moment I can't think of a better way. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to water my mounts as normal, keeping my eye on the water until such time as those black specks start appearing, at which point I know either which mount it's on or which set of mounts it's on, because there weren't any before that point. So that will identify my start point, and I'm pretty certain it's on these big ones through here. And I would almost put money on it, but I don't do that sort of thing, that it's the oldest mounts. I bet it's the plants that have been on their mounts for a very long time rather than new ones. That's it. Nick my chair, why don't you? And on my cushion. Oh, flipping cats. Yeah, so I'm going to try and identify well, I'm not going to try and identify what they are. I'm just going to try and deck them, basically. I don't know what they are. I don't even know if they're doing any harm. But I want them gone because I don't know what they are, if you see what I mean. And they shouldn't be here, whatever they are. So I'm going to have to try and do that. How they've got in here, I don't know. Did they come in the media of a plant and were in amongst the roots? Perhaps the plant never got the hydrogen peroxide treatment, or perhaps that treatment didn't touch them. They got away with it. Anyway, so this part is going to be the rest of the pots. It'll be done in stages as I water, and it'll be the same plan as usual. Water a set and then film them as I put them back. That way you don't have to watch me watering them. And the first lot I'm going to do are the shadier, cooler type that today are getting a flush. Now some of them probably won't even get watered because I went round with the blinking sprayer and I don't know how much water they got. So some might be absolutely dripping wet and don't need any, but it's a flush, so it shouldn't take me long. So, and then we'll film them as I put them back. So there's an ice cream wagon outside. Yay! I haven't seen one of them in the street for a very long time. That's, well, I suppose that's okay, isn't it? Is it okay? Serving ice creams to lots of different people running out of their houses and queuing up, perhaps? Not so sure about that. I'm sure he should be doing that. Anyway, none of my business. I don't want an ice cream. It's raining and it's cold. Right, I'll get going. Get the first lot done. Right, that's the first shelf done. Oh, starting with the larger Restrepias, because they go at the back, so they have to go back first. Now, this plant I've had quite a long time now. It's one of the first ones I ever got. It's got some tatty bits on it that, quite honestly, this one could tolerate a trim. It's got enough new leaves on it now to be able to sacrifice ones that caught the light or they're just old and tired. It could sacrifice those now and make it an awful lot tidier. Not today though, other things to do. There's new growths coming out all over the place here, and most of the new growths now are opening as quite nice leaves and not doing that sort of thing. That is a sign of dehydration, and quite a few of the new growths that followed the repot did that. That's because the roots had major disturbance. It was a large plant and it did have a lot of roots, and they picked up again quite quickly, but in the meantime I took advantage of the new growths, or the number of new growths, and it wasn't the best of ideas. Because of the number of new growths pushing up, the root disturbance dramatically affected those new growths and sort of spoiled them. Basically, they crinkled. It's the equivalent of the Oncidium type crinkle leaves, only that's how it looks on Restrepias. Anyway, it's a good sized plant. It's the one that blooms the least often for me. It's a species, well, it's a named clone. It's actually Restrepia antennifera. It's Hemsleyana, and that may well be one of Burnham's own. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's that one. Big mature plant, that one, but is in desperate need of a bit of a tidy up. Now this other big one has had a tidy up. So the difference. Are there any blooms on here? No, not at the moment. Yeah, this one had a reasonable tidy up not too long ago. Again, this one's pushing up some nice new growths now with clean leaves, you know, nice smooth leaves without crinkles all over them. And this is another species. This is falkenbergii, and again, those two plants were bought together. I don't know how long ago, but a long time ago. And just, I haven't watered these yet, but just to show you, they were bought as plants like that. I haven't got to these yet. So they were bought at that size. Now this one, this is the one that got the, or suffered the worst in the light and heat last year, and is recovering. But not recovered. So if I tidy this one and take off all these damaged leaves, I won't have much of a plant left, and that won't do the plant any good, because although these leaves aren't perfect, they're still capable of doing some photosynthesis. But there's quite a few new leaves coming, you know, like this. So we've got new leaves coming that aren't in bad nick. They're not bad. Got a couple of blooms on this one. Couple? No, one. I think the others have dropped. Yeah, but this has quite, as Restrepias go, these are quite large blooms. And that's one of the Eric Young Foundation ones. The other one went to somebody else because they were just very, very similar. And again, you know, if you're rationalising, it goes into the category of you don't need two. Right. Next is a plant that doesn't seem to be growing that well. Came from Lynn, and it's a Draculallia, so intergeneric in effect, and it's Aletta Page. And I mean, if you take like this new growth here, is not opening properly, but it has several new growths. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, and I don't know what's in the pot, but what I do know is this area of the plant here is pushing out quite a few new roots down into the pot, and that's where the new growths are coming. And we have a spike. So that's that one. Whether that spike's going to mature and bloom or not, I'm not quite sure. Now that's a piece of the yellow Miltoniopsis that we'll have a look at the big. Will we have a look at the big one today? Yes, we will. We'll have a look at the bigger one. It's just a piece that broke off. This pseudo bulb completely rotted and had to be extracted. Soft rot, yeah, soggy rot. But the two new growths are pushing on. Now, whether that's going to make it or not, I'm not sure. But it's got some roots. You know, just sits there. It'll either grow or it won't. It's got two choices. This little Masdevallia is Copperwing. We took it out of its pot a while ago because it wasn't happy and put it in pure moss. So we got zombie moss in the bottom of the pot and some live moss on the top of the pot, which is actually growing, or staying green at least. Got some new growths coming that are small, but there's quite a few of them. So I'm not quite sure what this is up to, but I've yet to see a pot full of roots, as yet. So let's see how that goes. But not dead and far from it. This is my little species Miltoniopsis that's actually doing quite well. We've actually got quite a lot of root growth going on now. Yeah, there's a fair bit down into the pot with root tips, so these are active roots. And the latest new growth on here is maturing, it's pushing on, and I've noticed today there's another little tiny new growth pushing out here over the other side. Sorry, I'm forgetting where my camera is. So there's a second new growth coming out. So this one's okay, it's going to make it. I still don't know whether that's a blooming size plant or not. We will have to wait and see, won't we? But it's growing. That's the main thing. That's all I'm really interested in with it, is that it hasn't keeled over and not made it. This is the ignea, and I've just cut 4 manky leaves off of this plant. And they had all the hallmarks to me of a bit of light damage. So we may have overcooked this trying to get it to bloom. But we have a spike. So we are going to get an ignea bloom. Singular. I don't see any others, do I? Now that I know what they look like. And that one has come out right from the base of a mature leaf. So I know where I'm looking now. I don't see any others as yet. I do see another dead leaf in there though. Right, that's that one. That just came off in my hand, so that's not a problem. But yeah, so we've managed to get a bud. I won't say bloom because it hasn't actually bloomed yet. We'll wait until it actually does. And then this is the manky one that we had to go at a while ago. And we left the 2 manky leaves on simply because there's elements of green still there, and if I take these 2 manky leaves off, it leaves that one on its own, and that's not much of a support for the plant. I don't see roots in the pot yet. I didn't expect to, but it hasn't gone downhill since it was potted up in the moss. It stayed the same. That's a good sign. Right, that's that shelf done. Be back when I've done another one. Right, next shelf. 2 of my Sarcochilas live up on this shelf, but they're not going back on that shelf today. They're going back somewhere where they get more light. Got some new root activity. You might not be able to see that. I don't want to tip it up too far or the media will all fall out. But there is root activity at the base of the plant, plus some very tiny little new fans starting. And this one does have roots down in the pot, including some active white ones. So it's coming on, but needs more light. So that's going back on in a different place. And the other one that lives with it that's also going in a different place. Again, this one's got a few new roots starting, not many, and again some new fans at the base, and again root activity in the pot, good root activity in the pot actually. So it's growing okay, it just needs better light now. It got put in the lower light level for the winter and following its repot. Drip water all over the place. This is my little Paphiopedilum delenatii. Delenatii or delenatii? What does it say on the label? Delenatii, and this is Vinicolor. So if it does ever bloom, it's the darker coloured version. This spent nearly 2 years with 0 roots. It now does have some roots in the pot, but I know cameras don't always show colour, but I'm getting a bit worried about this small Orchiata bark. It seems to be breaking down pretty quick to me, and the sign is that it's black, and even when it dries out it's still incredibly dark. It looks wrong to me, so I'm thinking about, I mean, I always said that my Paphiopedilums have, not that I've got many, have done a lot better since I started repotting each year, and as these two are showing no signs of blooming, I think I will. I think I'll put them to one side. And this is Paphiopedilum tonsum, another little miniature one. This spent quite a long time without any roots. It does have a couple of roots, but not that long ago it fell out of its pot. When it was hastily put back in its pot with the media poked back in, the roots aren't on the edge of the pot anymore. But this is just sitting on the top of the pot. It's not ideally positioned in the pot. Better to deal with it this time of year, I suppose, the growing season coming up. So that's the two little Paphiopedilums. Let's mark those as down for a repot. I've actually got some charcoal now, which in mixes like this, which are in fact, you know, small bark and moss, they're going to get a bit heavier on the charcoal. Right, this is my Maudae, Paphiopedilum Maudae, that's just starting its new growth at the base. Just the one, as always. This has got a good root system on it, as Paphiopedilums go. That's a nice root system. The problem with it is, this doesn't need a pot that big, but I can't get it in a smaller pot because of its root system. They break quite easily. They're not that bendy. So that's, you know, I daren't do it. If I try and cram that into a smaller pot, I'm going to end up breaking half of them roots. And having got a good root system on a Paphiopedilum, I'm reluctant to damage it. But it's going to have to be repotted. Again, it just looks so black. You know, the medium and the large grade doesn't go that colour under any circumstances, not even when you've just watered it. So I'm not happy with that. So I just had a duff bag or something. Right, Sarcochilus somewhere else. Right, this is, I think, it's a pleurophallid, and I'm pretty sure it's Restrepioides dragonstone or something. And it was a piece that broke off of the mother plant that's long since gone to somebody else, and this is waiting to go to somebody else as well. But again, this needs repotting. I mean, it's got new growing roots all in the pot, but this is a pot that suffered through something silly that just shouldn't happen. It got a lot of algae on it, and I put it inside a black pot without repotting it, and that algae's now died. That's what all that horrible brown yucky stuff is around the edge of the pot. That's not good for the plant. So that needs a repot, so that'll have to go with the Paphiopedilums for a repot. If I put it with them, then I won't forget, will I? And then these two last little Restrepias were Hannah's. They came down virtually dead and she went in hospital. But they're growing nicely. I'll have to look at the tags for the names. Right, this is another Restrepia antennifera, like the one I've got, except for this is a different clonal name, and it's Frontina Giant. I know when Hannah chose 2 Restrepia, she did quite a lot of research before we went to Burnham's to choose them, and she chose what she thought were going to be the biggest blooms. Bearing in mind they are quite small, but these 2 haven't bloomed yet, these 2 little ones. Again, this media is black. But this has grown a lot of roots now. I've got a reasonable root system down in the pot. I'm quite pleased with this, and it's actively growing quite strong now. Lovely new leaves coming up, many, 5 maybe 6 on a plant that size. That's not bad. That's almost doubled in size over the last couple of months, or when those leaves mature it will have. So that's that little one, and the other one that goes with it again was bought at the same time. Again, good roots now, you know. Started off as virtually a dead plant with about 2 leaves on. Spent quite a lot of time with no roots, and it's now growing nicely. And this one is Restrepia ephippium. There's a lot of fuffs in there. But this again is now starting to grow nicely. It's pushing up some nice clean new growths. Leaves that are opening up nicely. They're a good green, and there's a reasonable number of them. I haven't got a clue what the blooms look like on that one. That's a new one on me. Well, it will be if it ever blooms. I wouldn't be surprised to see some blooms on those 2 little Restrepias this coming fall. When these leaves have all matured, it'll have a better root system by then, and as we come out of the summer heat and it gets more comfortable with the temperatures, I wouldn't be surprised to see those 2 bloom. Right, so the only one that's got to go back in that area is the Draculallia, which again it keeps growing new leaves. It grows quite strong, good looking new leaves, nice green ones. Quite happy with the way it grows new leaves frequently. Lovely new leaves, and quite a lot of them too. We've still maintained our latest bud. That's showing colour now and not showing any signs of wilting like the ones did last year. And I do believe, now that may be a root, but I've never seen a root come out of the pot on this plant yet. Everything that seems to venture out of the pot turns into a bloom spike, but that one may be a root. It's very pale, but it could be another spike, and then somewhere there, that is definitely another spike. I've had it long enough now to be able to tell, and you can see on that one only the tip is white, the rest of it is spike coloured. It's just the tip that comes out white, whereas this other one over here, actually I'm pretty sure if I look, turn the plant right over, that white tip there has actually got the dark colour behind it. So I think we got 2 more spikes coming. Woohoo! But this one, this bud on here is starting to swell nicely now, so oh, that is a nuisance to try and put back. Right, so so that's most of the cooler, shadier ones. I've just got the big Miltoniopsis to dig out. I'll be back. Right, so the last 3 in this set are the 3 larger Miltoniopsis that I got at our show last year. The names aren't on here, but they'll be done with pop-ups. This is the pink one. Now this went in the pot as 2 plants, I believe, because I can see that wobbling, so I know that is a single piece. And its single new growth is pushing on okay, and there are roots underneath it. The other part of the plant has 2 new growths, one here, quite diminutive, not full size by any means, but they've grown and they've done roots, which was the most important thing with these. The roots were almost lost. But we've got some good roots, there's still more growing, and I'm going to just had a thought while I've been literally doing this watering. Let's get rid of that one. Get the next one. this business of small bark and moss, I think wherever I have used small bark and moss, I'm going to replace it with less small bark with medium bark mixed in. I'm going to add a substantial amount of charcoal, which is a granule size very similar to the size of the small bark. That will replace what I've taken out, and instead of using the zombie moss, I'm going to try live moss down in the pot, like I do with the zombie moss, but with live moss, and see if it will grow, because it has a sterilising effect, and I think the moss and the charcoal between them will keep for a fresh media a lot longer. Anyway, this one is the one without a label, so this is the really dark coloured one. Again, we've got new growths, doing okay. They're still actively growing roots around the base, and that's a good root system. I'm happy with that. That's a total replacement root system for a plant that had virtually none. So that's coming on nicely, and the new growths are pushing on well. It's possible they'll bloom, but we will have to wait and see. No guarantees. I'm happy they're alive, quite honestly. I didn't think they were going to make it. As a set of three, one was very poorly and two weren't very happy in that sort of category. Now, this is the other one. This is the yellow one. This is the mother plant of the bit we had a look at earlier. And again, this one's got a problem. This new growth here has climbed, so its new roots are sort of aerial, and the central leaf has concertinaed and looks a bit wobbly, as though it's going to break. Never mind, the bulb will still mature without that top leaf, and the rest of the leaves on the bulb are nice and healthy looking. So that's that one, and I think the other new growth is coming up in the middle of the plant, and that one's okay. And again, it's grown some reasonable roots, not bad at all. So it's coming on. And all three of those, since the holes were made in the pot, the whole idea was that I have to water them more often. So whereas before they were staying wet far too long, which would, with the moss in the pot, would mean the pH in the pot was dropping dramatically during the time it was still wet. Not happy with that. So I'm now watering them at the same frequency as the rest of the set. So they're drying out a lot faster now, and it means they get flushed through with fresh water far more frequently. So it stops the build up of the acidity and stuff, because they get flushed through more often. So get me other bits and pieces back. Actually, I think I'll get my cristata out. I don't think this is going to be dry, because when I went round with the sprayer this got absolutely soaked. No, that's still wet. So no problems with the watering, but this one's breaking out in growths all over the place. So we've got a nice one here, another one down in there. So over that side of the plant there's, let me come round and have a look. This is not easy. Another little one down there. So 2 or 3 in this area coming on nicely, and then that forgets these ones higher up here where we've actually got 2. Now that isn't 2 new growths, because one of those was the other one that I thought was a bloom spike, which was, but it didn't progress, so it isn't going to grow, I don't think. And then there's another nice one coming out around here, so another one here. So quite a few new growths in various places, and with the new growths will come some new roots, and with that number of new growths this year, hopefully we'll get more than 1 flower spike next spring. Although we had 2 flower spikes, only one of them actually bloomed. So that's that one. Right. While I'm there on the floor, why bend down twice? This is Wilbur Chang. And if you had that leaf on one of your Bulbophyllums, would you be happy? Because I'm not. This is a difficult plant to work out what's going on, but every now and again one of the leaves does that. And as soon as I've got it in my hands, it promptly gets taken off. On the grounds it's doing no good. It's some sort of infection, it's got to be. Hopefully it's nothing more serious. But what's going on in here, on this one, is growths basically. I doubt if they're bloom spikes. Still hasn't bloomed for me. But we've got a new growth coming up here. So there's one on that bulb. And then coming around we've got another one here. So there's another new growth coming up here. There's another one tucked in there behind the label. So there's another one there. And that in fact is quite a new growth, but it's way ahead of the others. So we've got some new growths coming up on here, but that plant's lost quite a few leaves. Now I'm waiting to see what it does this year. One good bit of news on this one, that without any help whatsoever, it's now got live moss on the top that isn't sphagnum moss. So that's managed to get its own moss from somewhere. I don't think I put it on there. I might have done, I don't know. Distant memory. But that's now got live moss on the top of the pot, which will do the plant the world of good. Better than just the zombie moss. So that's that one. Oh. I suppose we ought to do this Cymbidium. It is one of my plants after all, before it gets thrown outside. And all I can say about this is it has a nice strong new growth growing, which is what it does. It grows a bulb, puts up a spike, and it's not one of these. A lot of Cymbidiums that are winter bloomers, they need the chill nights in the autumn to produce the spike. This starts its spike in August, so it's got nothing to do with cooler nights whatsoever. That's just the time of year it pushes its spike up. We then have the blooms in the winter, long lasting, and then this time of year it starts its new growth again, and that's what it does. And so far it's only ever produced one new growth. So there we go, that's what it's up to, and it will be going outside soon. Right, that's that set. Break time, and then I'll be back and do another set. Okay, I'm going to cut this video off and turn it into two parts. I've offloaded everything off the camera and there's far too much for a single video, and I hadn't even finished filming. So I've got lots of sections, so it's easy to find a midway point and turn this into part 4A, and then part 4B will follow on with the rest of the clips with a new introduction and all that. That's my faffing around. You don't need to worry about all that. But what's happened is, while I was filming this and enjoying myself, watering and giving my plants a good look over and then talking about them to the camera, is it went from coffee o'clock to wine o'clock. Now that doesn't normally happen when I'm filming, because I'm not normally filming at this time of day, unless it's in the kitchen. Kitchen time is usually late in the day, but not watering. But it's pots without getting plants wet, so I don't mind watering late in the day. Right, so pots, pots and more pots, part 4A. Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday, we will be doing viewers' orchid questions and answers. I have enough, so that will be Thursday's video. Friday's video is going to be part 4B, which is all the clips I haven't used so far in this lot. Which means I haven't got a film on Friday. Well, I'll have a day off, that'd be nice. And Saturday's another day. We'll worry about that when we get there. I can't think that far ahead, not for videos anyway, but we'll find something. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.